No one ever said you mattered less. They didn't have to. You felt it in the silence after your report card, in the way your parent nodded, said good, and then turned back to your siblings' problems. You felt it at the dinner table, watching the conversation orbit around them while you sat at the edge, fork in hand, wondering if anyone would ask about your day. They didn't, or they did eventually, the way you remember to check the back burner after the main dish is done. And you were the back burner, the thing that could wait, and you learned to wait so well that you stopped expecting anything else. You learned early what it meant to be the easy one, the one who didn't need much, the one who figured things out alone, who didn't ask twice, who stopped asking at all. You watched your parents pour themselves into your sibling, and you told yourself it made sense. They needed more, they struggled more, they were more, and you were just there. Present, accounted for, but never urgent. Never was the reason someone dropped everything. You learned to be grateful for what you got, even when what you got was leftovers dressed up as enough. You were maybe 9 or 10. You remember standing in the kitchen doorway, or maybe it was the hallway outside your room. A parent on the phone, voice tight with concern, pacing the way they did when something mattered. You watched their face, the crease between their eyebrows, and the hand pressed against their forehead. And you knew before they hung up. The concern was never about you. It had never been, or maybe it was at dinner, the conversation always circling back to them. Their problems, their progress, their future. And when someone finally turned to you, it felt like an afterthought. Like remembering to water the second plant. You smiled anyway. You said school was good. You said everything was fine. You learned to make yourself easy to overlook, and then wondered why no one looked. Now you're older and you still wait. In conversations you hold back. You let others finish first. You don't interrupt because you've learned that your words can always wait. Someone asks how you're doing, gee, and you feel your shoulders pull back, your voice go light. You say fine before they've even finished the question. Not because you are fine, but because needing anything more felt like too much to ask for. Act like you hadn't earned the right to take up that kind of space. You've built a life that asks for very little. You're independent now, and people admire that. They call you low maintenance, easygoing, self-sufficient. And you nod, because what else would you be? You never learned how to speak out loud. You never learned that your needs were worth the disruption. So you handle things alone. You solve your own problems. You celebrate your own wins quietly. And in rooms where no one is watching, and when no one notices you, tell yourself you didn't want them to anyway. You almost believe it. Some days you do believe it. But then something small happens, and the ache comes back, sudden and unwelcome. Sometimes, late at night or in some unexpected quiet moment, something cracks open. You think about the things you never said, the times you wanted someone to fight for you. To notice you were struggling without you having to explain it first. To choose you just once, not because your sibling wasn't there, but because you were. And then you push it down again. You've gotten good at pushing it down. You tell yourself it doesn't matter anymore, that you're an adult now, that keeping score is childish. But the score, you never stopped keeping it. You just stopped saying the numbers out loud. The hardest part isn't the forgetting, it's the way you've learned to forget yourself. Somewhere along the way, you stopped knowing what you actually wanted. Not what was practical, not what was available, what you wanted. The question feels foreign now, like a language you once spoke but have since lost. You shrank your desires for so long that they disappeared. You became someone who adapts, who adjusts, who takes whatever shape the room requires. And now, when someone asks what you need, you freeze. Not because you're being polite, because you genuinely don't know anymore. What you wanted was simple. You wanted someone to see you without you having to perform, to ask how you really were and wait for the real answer, to remember something small you mentioned once and bring it up later, to make you feel like you mattered when nothing was wrong. Not because you were struggling, not because you were falling apart, just because you existed, just because you were theirs too. That's all it would have taken. But that's not what happened. What happened is you raised yourself in the margins. You learned to celebrate alone, to grieve alone, to figure out who you were becoming with no one paying much attention. And part of you is proud of that. You survived, you became whole on your own terms. But another part of you, that part still aches. That part is still 9 years old, standing in the kitchen doorway. I'm watching a parent's face crease with worry for someone else, still waiting for them to turn around. Actually see you standing there. People look at you now and see someone steady, someone who doesn't need much, someone who just handles things. They don't see the cost of that steadiness. They don't see the years of making yourself smaller, so that wanting wouldn't hurt so much when it went unmet. They see what you built. They don't see the kid who built it alone. You're still holding your breath somewhere, still watching doorways, still wondering if you'll ever stop feeling like the one who came second. And maybe you always will be.